Pour vous dire que notre journée était censée s'arrêter à 17h.
So that so it is now 4:30. We have a 30-minute more. Based upon what is in the program, so seeing the importance of the next panel, I would. So we are going to make a effort, knowing the importance of this panel, so that we give the floor to the panelists so that they present their communications, and the panel benefits from the same treatment, giving the floor to the participant. This will create some inconvenience, but the interest of this panel is inviting us to do this. Mr. Kamal. Micro. As we know, the entrance, the access to the town is very difficult. So I even walked before coming here. We have to take into account the situation to go and to go back home is very complicated. If we could put off to tomorrow. If this is for transportation means, we have the support of the government. We have 19 cars, so amongst it we have, if we have various directions, we could give them the car so that they can go with the cars. Is this good? If we agree upon this, so we are going. So AGETIPE is going to get in touch with those. So some were obliged to leave their cars. So we have to get means at the end of the day to go near their cars so that they take it.
Okay. Oui. Thierry propose une formule.
There's a formula that was proposed. We are going to give the time the panelists to do their presentations. Then after their presentations, that you ask your questions.
Okay, d'accord. Donc, sur ce,
on this note,
j'invite
I'm going to invite Mr. TSIGLO, General Director of MP from Togo, to moderate this third and last panel of the day. Our first panelist is a lady, Madame Fatou Kiridi BANGOURA, specialist at the National Agency.
Madame
BANGOURA.
Installez-vous. Le deuxième panéliste, c'est M.
Second panelist is Sidiki, General Director of Public Works AGETIPE, Mr. Aboubacar Sidiki CAMARA. Our third panelist is Mr. Layani CAMARA. Mr. Layani CAMARA. He is in charge of a project at the Engineering Cabinet and Development, Sustainable Development of Guinea. Mr. Layani, please.
On aura besoin d'un cinquième fauteuil.
We need
pour notre dernier panéliste de la journée,
another seat.
M. Alpha Koulibaly.
Alpha Koulibaly is the Deputy Coordinator of ANPE from Mali. Mr. Alpha.
Sa communication va porter sur développement et promotion.
His communication will be on values of development.
Donc, Monsieur le modérateur,
So the moderator, I give you the floor. Thank you. Thank you. So, Master of Ceremony, welcome to the panelists. I think already 5 panelists are here. I would like to organizers of this workshop that have put all the commodity at our disposal to thank the eminent panelists that are here present for accepting to do the presentation with us. And certainly we are tired. With this workshop, you will allow me that our first 2 panels allowed us to take into account the work that all the actors, more actors, are doing. We have talked about the composting, the green tourism digester. We also talk about biofuel management, waste management, amongst a few. So all these initiatives are put in place by a panoply of actors. So we have within all these, we have some services. We have actors, private actors, we have actors from the civil society that are also intervening. So for our mission to achieve the performance in terms of development towards the green employment, there's a necessity of a synergy of actions amongst the various actors. There's a necessity of collaboration amongst the various actors. This is the theme of our this present panel. Which thematic is
je vais vous aider, monsieur le modérateur. Voilà. Il s'agit de
about what policies, what partnership, what governance for the territorial governance of actors for the development of a green economy. I take advantage of the mic to announce that we have a 5th panelist for this round table, Mr. Sa Eli Mongono, who is Administrative Secretary of ONG Synergy Actions Citizens of Guinea. Mr. Ali is going to sit here because our podium, there's no more space. We have 5 panelists. They will present their communication. Before we go to questions, as we had lunch, there's a coffee break. When doing it, there's no noise we are making. Thank you, Mr. Sidiki. I'm going to present panelists. First, we have Madame Fatou BANGOURA, Kiridi BANGOURA, specialist in social safeguard at the National Agency. We have Mr. Aboubacar Sidiki CAMARA, Deputy General Director of the National Agence Guinéenne. We have Mr. Sa Eli, Mongono, Administrative Secretary in charge of synergy actions. From the Republic of Guinea, we have Mr. Layali CAMARA, in charge of project at the Engineering Cabinet and Environmental for Sustainable Development in Guinea. Then we have Mr. Alpha Koulibaly, coordinator of the unit at the ANPE from Mali. Very quickly, we are going to give the floor to the only lady of this panel list, Madame Fatou Kiridi BANGOURA. She is specialist of the National Agency for Investment of Collectivity Investment. Good morning, good evening. This before we start, before going into the detail of the presentation. The presentation of this panel is focused on the partnership when it comes to the local collectivity for the promotion of the green employment in the Republic of Guinea. The National Agency for Investment of Collectivity is an agency under the supervision of the Ministry of Administration. This is a project that was initiated, the program, a support program to the villages community. So, and this is implemented here in Guinea to accompany collectivities in the countryside. And this, when the agency was created in 2019, the communities from the countryside, as they had an experience in terms of local planning, so the major part of my intervention will focus on this ANAFIC and the local collectivity. So then later on you will see the respective case. So we'll present what is ANAFIC about. It has the mission, the implementation of the policies of the government in terms of the local development, is to mobilize resources that income from the mining tax, so taking into account the private companies. And this is also mobilized at the level of the Treasury with the National Fund for Local Development. And this is within the mining sector. And this is also not put in place with this is also taken into account the mining mining sector activities, and with the geographical size of the project. And this fund is also taking into account the amortization, the balance at the level of the various local collectivity. And this is to take into account the mining exploitation, take into account the impact, social and environmental impact. We have 356 local collectivity in the countryside. We have 337 sub-districts and 33 district prefectures. there's also the agency has mobilized up to last year 251 million. So each year it is an amount that is roughly 8 million USD. So taking into account the various touristic sites of Conakry, we have the island of Los Casa. So there's also FODEL. FODEL is a fund that is working in all the community for development. We have a supplementary fund for, let's say, mitigation measures, taking into account this aspect. So it is not also on the same equal footing. So the second mission of this agency is the participation in fundraising with technical and financial partners of the country. Then there's also the project for investment of collectivity and to take into account the support and technical accompaniment, the funding of the collectivity. The agency accompanies also through the support of the local elect, the implementation of this local development with the local collectivity level. Also, this is carried out by the sectorial ministry, the Ministry of Health, and this is taking into account the building of schools, the ministry at the central level. This budget, basing upon the school mapping given by the ministry, is given in order to allow the community to the construction of schools. This takes into account the various departments, and this also takes into account the transfer of competence. So it also to figure out problems in order to bring solutions. So under this is also taken into account the capacity building, taking into account the technical and financial aspect. With when we take the funding aspect of this, we take into account the subvention, the subsidy, with all the project. When we take the code of local collectivity, so some communities are coming to us and make a request regarding their integration. There's also the implementation of some project when it comes to the creation of employment, the capacity building when it comes to the unit, with some project. Then we have the management when it comes to the local collectivity. We have some actors we are working with, so they are also creators of employment, and this is taking into account the interest we have. So, and we are taking into account the creation of employment at the level of the community. And this is also taken into account this aspect. The local collectivity is to guarantee rights and duties And this is also taken into consideration, this particular aspect, to manage the goods collected from it. And we are going to take into account this aspect. When coming back to this, we are going to see what we need when it comes to capacity building aspect to put in place. There's also so we're going to take into account this aspect. So regarding the implementation of this activity. So when it comes to the creation of this, the management, we also have the procurement aspect, the planning, the local development. Fourthly, we also have the administrative management and the public enlightenment. So the literacy, the building, construction of schools, etc. We can also take into account this within the local collectivity, such as the public touristic site. We can see some projects that are in this framework regarding the planning. This is also a very important focus. Also, we see about what we are doing at the level of the municipalities, taking into account the local planning. So, and this is taking into account the development. We want to take the recent years. We take into account the creation at the level of the municipality. Some projects that were taken into account when it comes to putting in place a guide. This facilitated the integration, and this is extremely important when we want to create green employment. The local actors to understand where there's their needs and to propose actions regarding the sustainable development. And if there's no link between what is being done in terms of local development, there's also a dysfunctioning when it comes to this. So the second aspect when it comes to this, in this process, so in February 2023, there was a project that was initiated. 4 steering committee were also implemented. Then taking into account the gender issue. The integration of the investment program. When the funds are in the collectivities they can ask, we have indicated the problems, the funding is ready, and they can say the health is a priority. But there are some climate change issues. When it comes to the construction of a school, there are material cases aspect. So energy, that is also making worse the situation. So after the opportunity regarding the creation of the green employment. As we can see, these are opportunities of the employment. This is another view when it comes to the various collectivity, and then those who could be asking for it. There's also this at the level of the collectivity, the ecological material. I'm going to give example. When it comes to the region of Upper Guinea, this has impact on climate change. This, when you take the Niger River, which has a very great impact in terms in drying season, some disappeared. So there's also the sound that is gaining ground, the exogenous aspect of it is these are different from the other aspect. Taking into account this very complicated case, when we take employment, they could benefit from techniques that allow them to have the creation of the employment. And when you take the economic aspect or matter, this seems less priority for people. The protection of SMEs, and this is also taken into account the climate aspect. And there was a question raised when it comes to the human waste. And we received someone who came and met with us, talking about the transformation of human waste into fertilizer with the garden activities. So, and this is also taken into account. We said that we need to have a sensitization. Who would accept this type of recycling be dedicated to or devoted to the feeding? So it is important to sensitize the local elected. So this analysis does not impose when it comes to the activities. We have the funding, something which is very sensitive. When it comes to the funding, they will receive funding from the ANAFIC. When you take the commune of Nouassora in Sidiki, this was subject to flooding in rainy season. 2 villages were dislocated. So 27,000 USD regarding the social and environmental impact with the river. So no one compelled them to do it so. So they were also facing difficulties that allowed the funding of activities. The professional aspect of it, anything in line with solar energy is taken into account. Also, even this at the level of schools, and taking into account the materials. And the agent in charge of this to have a synergy of actions at the local level when it comes to the request for employment. And this is today talking about quality. In terms of valuation of some actions that are funded by the partners, they take into account the sensitization. And today, this is today something that exists at the public service level. So, and these actions are today existing at the level of the community. So that's why we are talking about some cases. So this is also generating money when it comes to this aspect. So then the advantages for the collectivities. Each municipality has to take into account the favoring of these activities that we have. We have some communes or municipalities that are also taking into account this local development aspect. So there are also some activities that are being finalizing when it comes to the performance. We have some municipalities that are taking into account this green financing or funding. With this framework of undertaking to come and work in municipality, there are also synergy to be done at the level of the municipalities. What ANAFIC is doing with the climate change, the FNDN funds that are at the national level. So, and we have also tax that are taken into account. And funds are here to accompany for we have four types of activities regarding the funding of all these projects. We have the green employment. It was signed taking into account the local development. This is also taking into account the funding relating to the funding of projects. They could also benefit from new employment that were created. So taking into account 10 million euro that was to fund activities in line with the ecology. And when a municipality at the national level is funding for the construction of a school, so the municipality has the funding. We are going to equip with the school electrification. We are going to equip with the fencing, wood fence. So there are some more advantages when it comes to the infrastructure. The entrepreneurs at the local level will be also working. So this homogeneity is part of the creation of green employment. And when this type of employment is to exist, lastly, the very important point, the most important point which is the finalization aspect towards the green employment. They benefited from the capacity to put in place actions regarding the climate. When it comes to this opportunity, mostly for the creation of green employment, each year it is when given 100 million USD on condition that there are programs taking into account the conceptual aspect at national level, at the collectivity, local collectivity level. And this is this obtention, the obtention of the accreditation is ongoing. And when it comes to the employment, promotion, or creation of employment. So we see recommendations regarding the improvement of our local collectivity. What we are saying, we are advising to create green employment at the local collectivity level. Just try to take, we have to consider the collectivity like an entrance of actors for sustainable development. When we take this aspect, taking into account a local development aspect, my colleague talked about this morning. When we take the territorial aspect, the recommendations is to have a language, the same language, when it comes to the development of the collectivity. So we also need a win-win situation, and this is purely entrepreneurship. And the mayor don't want to hear. They want to see, or let's say, point out at buildings that they have built up after their mandate, after their term. And the population have lands or properties that are priority. When you talk about climate or other things, they don't care. So when you talk about this aspect is to take into account a win-win approach. So taking into account at the level of collectivity. So if you have at the level of locality, so we could see what we need to do when it comes to development. Also working with technical partners for the creation of employment. This is to take into account the digital aspect. When coming to the development aspect, to end, we have the accreditation for climate, of ANAFIC for climate, which is focused on the creation of employment. So taking into account the innovation, which is also favorable to the climate change. This is also taking into account the identity, economic and environmental aspect, in order to link it to other aspects. Normally, at each international workshop, this is to assist the 3,000 USD they receive from ANAFIC. They can have a partnership. We have to give this logic. this view when it comes to entrepreneurship. Lastly, the improvement of the consideration of resilience to change, climate change. Et também les SMEs are part of this project. And to promote also the funding of this is to be eligible to funding. On this note, I thank you. Ne parle pas dans le micro. Micro. Non, c'est pas allumé. C'est pas allumé. We give the floor to Mr. CAMARA Sidiki for his presentation.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. I would like to start by thanking the organizers of this conference and thank Madame BANGOURA from ANAFIC and ANAFIC as a team. The question.
Je voudrais notre communiquer sur
our communication,
l'AGETIPE dans l'écosystème.
The AGETIPE place for the employment sector in Guinea. It has an instrument for massive creation of massive jobs for local companies. AGETIPE is an agency that has been funded. You know, the adjectives can be found everywhere in the developing countries. The context in which this AGETIPE has been created is after the structural reform in the 1980s. These reforms had a disastrous impact on the employment in the developing countries. These impacts are the lower employment of youth and also the lack of public structures, high poverty rates, amounts of evaluation of markets, and favorable life conditions. So AGETIPE is the manpower for the state. I'm not going to talk about its evolution. So the AGETIPE has been set up in 2013 as a public body under the ministry technical from the Ministry of Youth at that time, and now Ministry of Youth and Sport, and under the finance of the Ministry of Finance. And it has a core mission, the implementation of works of public utility. You know, in Guinea, almost 70% of public and private investment are oriented or focused to the implementation of infrastructures and services. And our finding is that most of the time, the small SMEs do not benefit from the public, and that's why AGETIPE has been created to allow these small SMEs to benefit from the public funds. And there is a mission of public interest, which is the implementation of infrastructures of public usage. There is also a mission related to the capacity building of SMEs. As you know, one of our missions is to favor and for the emergency of local SMEs in the sector of building. We deploy trainings for the manpower in order to support technically the SMEs in the construction sector, and the promotion and AGETIPE has programs in the sector of immobilization. HIMO, we have partnership. We also developed HIMO projects throughout the country. I was saying that AGETIPE is the delegate implementer, meaning that they are implementing our intervention strategy. Is first of all as a delegate we interest the implementation. We sign conventions with companies, and then we calls to recruit companies in order to implement works on the ground. The strategy of intervention here, as all the other agencies, AGETIPE can mobilize funds with financial partners and also benefit from the subvention from the government. And most of the time we can out call for projects. It can be Ministry of Environment, they can have projects, but it can happen that the ministry do not have funds budget for the implementation of that project. That project can be entrusted to AGETIPE, and AGETIPE can implement the project, and then AGETIPE reimburses the Ministry of Economy and Finance reimburses later, and we ourselves, we most of the time we initiate projects at our level, and then we sign conventions with companies to implement these projects in the country. And we are at both the co-implementator of the states for the collectivities for any other public and private project in the Republic of Guinea. I was talking about the strategy, the implementation strategy. You see, the AGETIPE is here. We signed the convention for implementing with the collectivities, government, and financial partners. And then we have AGETIPE recruits SMEs, the private and the NGOs, and then interest the implementation, not only for the studies, the call for applications, and also the implementation of works, trainings, and support. HIMO, HIMO, when we implement HIMO works, most of the time we implement the recruit manpower, and the manpower at the beginning can start without qualification, but at the end of the works they have a qualification, and help in the school. We also support youth, and after the implementation of works, since its creation, AGETIPE has implemented many activities and implementation, the construction of 12 schools in the region of Kankan with the program of education for all, construction of the market in Symphonia with the support of recruitment, training, and employment of 1,000 youth, 500 recruited at Kaleta, the reinforcement program of 600 companies for the project design, and the implementation of the first pilot phase for the paving projects in Conakry and Kamatuta, and the creation and supporting 100 agricultural groupment in the prefectures, recruitment of 250 youth for the sensitization and the involvement of youth in cleaning Conakry town, initiated by the Ministry of Administration and Decentralization. The ongoing activities, the statistics from 2015 to 2022, AGETIPE created at least 8,629 employment, among them 1,205 women. The ongoing activities, project of insertion of 2,000 youth by job score. In 2023, we launched a big project that we call a project of 5,000 youth per jobs field. We initiated this project in the framework of the promotion of jobs in the sector of building. And this project is ongoing. We have the paving projects in 6 communes in Guinea. It's now 15 communes. We have 2 rural communes, Kintinyan commune and the Malia communes. These communes, we have signed the contracts for the paving projects at the beginning of the year. These works will be launched. Recruitment of 420 for the building sector. When we recruited those, we supported them technically. These companies, all these companies are operational on the ground, and there is a mission that is back from the country. We have done the statistics, the employment created by those companies. We are today happy to announce you at least each company has created 3 sustainable employment. We have trained those companies and we have supported them on the ground. We have also launched another project which is related to the national strategy of employment. Currently, AGETIPE is doing the promotion of HIMO approach in Guinea, but we are lagging. Guinea is lagging behind compared to the other countries. When you take Cameroon, for instance, there is a decree that was taken by the Prime Minister. I don't know if it is the current or former,
regarding the HIMO approach. They are leading. We too, we do not have a strategy in Guinea, let alone a decree on the implementation of the HIMO approach. We requested an expertise of the ILO through the ILO office in Dakar. They came, they carried out studies in the ground. We identified the opportunity of employment, the potentiality of HIMO sector. It is estimated about 1 million opportunities each year. So they advised us to elaborate the national strategy of HIMO, and the terms of references have been done, and we have done the launched the tender, cabinet has been Burkina-based company has been recruited, because we found that they have the expertise to write the national HIMO strategy. What we ambition to do, we plan to do all the works for public utility in the Republic of Guinea, be it implemented by the public services or the private services, so that these entities take into account 20% of employment of the HIMO approach. And also we also signed a convention with the Ministry of National Education on the study on the project for securing schools and the construction of latrines and the construction of boreholes for schools in the country. Now, I would like to say that the experience of AGETIPE is various. AGETIPE has allowed the building and implementation of infrastructures since its creation. With low cost. This is the advantage of the HIMO approach. Not only you can favor the emergency of local companies, what we do really is not like the traditional tender. When we implement works, for instance, in Kurusa, for instance, we make sure that the company be recruited on the ground, and also we give the possibility to many companies to be involved for the same. We can give the transport to an NGO or the local materials to another NGO, etc., etc. This is what we can do, but we make sure that everybody, all of them, we make sure that all what we need for the implementation of these works be sold on the ground. This is what we do on the ground, as we have time constraints. So on this note, I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. CAMARA, for your presentation. And now we give the floor to Mr. Yombuno, who is going to present quickly. So the recycling of plastic waste. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
My presentation is focusing on the issues related to the recycling of waste. This is the presentation plan that you can see here. So Guinea has not been presented so this is Guinea. Everybody knows Guinea. Here we had a finding to put in place the infrastructure for recycling the waste, the garbage. It is related to the policy to set up infrastructures for this field, and also we have the composition of waste that has changed compared to the previous years. As today, there is a use of plastic because before, like the buckets of water, many packaging, but today we have the plastic. When you go to the market, they can give you 10 plastic bags for a single product.
Okay, pas de problème.
So due to the seriousness of the situation, structures in the informal sector was created in Conakry and in the events through the calls of the Environment Ministry to the producers of plastic packaging. The urban and area is invaded at the 100 tons of waste are laid in the sea based upon the World Bank figures. I think 90% of the world population are contaminated by the pollution of air due to the waste based upon 2019 ANPE study. Conakry produced 1,800 tons of waste, 270 tons of plastic waste, and 162 tons of paper, 108 tons of 900 non-recycling. So here we have the recycling waste. There are three. We have the human means and technical and funding. For the human means, we have the sensitization and education. We have also a second element related to the human means, which is the training. We have also always related to the human means. We have talked about the adoption of eco-responsible attitudes and the promotion of circular economy by the pre-collector of waste. We also talk about regulations, and all these elements are part of the human means. We have secondly the technical means. We talked about the selective collection. We have to do the selective collects. So we have to manage all this before. We have also the processing. The third one, the last means, the third one is the financial means. We need a private and public sector. We collaborate with the private sector in order to set up adequate infrastructures to facilitate the recycling of wastes. So at this level, I talked about an element, very interesting elements. We have to sensitize traders and citizens in order to select the waste at the source, and the goal is to produce means and services by limiting the consumption, and this is the goal for our presentation, which is based based on the circular so these are the recycling. The first image, these are the pavers that have been made through plastic bag recycling, and the second one is the Sodia Plast company that make these articles or these materials like the water buckets. Thank you for your kind attention. Thanks to Mr. Sidiki CAMARA for his presentation. Mr. Yombono, I'm sorry. Now, Mr. Yali CAMARA, you have the floor. You go in 5 minutes. No, thank you. As you know all, the COP28 has occurred. Many topics. COP28 has ended in Dubai quite recently. During that conference, it was a question to talk about climate change. When you talk about climate change, you can't talk about forest. The forest plays a key role. Now, talking about the contribution of the forest sector in the green jobs, we are going to talk about the findings in Guinea. Guinea, the country is very rich in natural resources and biodiversity, but unfortunately, these resources are negatively impacted. These resources can create many jobs. If you remember, at the Second Republic, with the restructuring of the Bretton Woods institutions, many lost their jobs, and these youth were not directed and managed the cut trees, so the green jobs were not promoted. So the forest sector play a key role for the creation of green jobs. So Guinea count about 13 million of hectares of forest for more than 1,182 classified forests. What are the causes? It's the growth of the population and the urbanization and the forest exploitation, the carbonization, and also the mining exploitations, wildfires, all this, and also the so it was found that the mic is not using the mic. What is the potential? The inventory is very important, and also there is a need of financial funds to manage those forests and protect them. Lack of harmonization of legal texts for the protection of environment, and lack of logistic, the local governance, and also lack of financial and technical means. Let's talk about the core actions for the forest. For this, we have first of all to make sure that the forest is a a very important resource. For this, we have to elaborate of regulatory and elaboration of plans for the management and protection of forest. The replanting in 2019, an initiative was set up between the Ministry of Environment and the Youth Ministry. It was to involve youth for the replanting. At that time, we started with 42 communes to include them and to use NGOs, youth, women, and in order to be involved in those activities of replanting. The replanting is a core activity, and the resource is very impacted. The protection of head sources, many head sources that are drying up, and we have Garafiri and Kaleta and the Swapiti dams that have been completed. If measures are not taken to restore the forest on the head sources, and the pollution and the drying up of waterheads will impact the rivers. So these are measures that need to be done. These activities, we have to involve the youth and the restoration of the forest. This morning, Madam talked about the forest at community level. In the development plan, local development, community development plans, there is a section related to the protection, to the replanting. Communities are involved in the process of replanting. At a time, 3 or 2 years ago, we elaborated a project for each village had to replant. These forests should be created and supported by also the communities involved. There is also to protect the forest and also to involve the actors from the communities so that they play the role of restoration and also the management. And it is important to set up groups of women and youth for replanting, not only for replanting, for the sectors of trees or wood. There are many people who are working on the wood sector, but they do not master. They have to be trained so that they know how to manage the replanting. And there is also the sensitization of the communities. Some opportunities, elaboration of plans, and set up a decade plan. Kenya, for instance, promised to replant 15 million of plants. So there is this challenge. We have to invest in the replanting and the restoration of the vegetal cover. If our rivers dry up, all the region, the whole region will be impacted, because all these reservoirs, we are at the upstream, we are the water reservoir of the region. So all the 9 countries will be impacted. So it is there is a need of sensitization and the involvement and the invest more in the replanting and the restoration of the vegetal coverage. There is a need to rehabilitate this forest that has been impacted, that are exploited. And the support to the elaboration of strategies. Today, there are some forest projects. These products could be valorized, that could create many jobs, but those products could be produced from Labe Farana can be exported to Nigeria. Why not creating the opportunities for the youth and then they can even produce oil. And so I think that the elaboration of plans we have to promote with the new authorities. I'm sorry to hear, I can't hear him well. And also promote the forest research in order to preserve the forest, support the management of preserved parks and forest. The synergy between the environment department and the agriculture. The forest is not only the environmental. If we take the example of Kundara, where we have communities that attract, where they have a very rich soil that attract many foreigners. I think that we have to create this synergy between the ministerial departments in charge. And for also Kintinya, in Kindia, we have and we have to go upstream. If we do not replant the water heads, the rivers will dry up, will be impacted. And for this, we have to take actions at upstream where the head source is, because our head sources are very impacted. So, to classify and protect the forest, I think that we have to classify or preserve the forest. Most of the classified forests are transformed into farming lands, and and also urban forest, and also in Anta, in Conakry here, the forest, the urban forest has been destroyed by the urbanization. And also support to the management of wildfire, and that destroy a big quantity of forest. The wildfire must be fought in order to prevent the wildfire to destroy. So all the actions that I mentioned, these are taken into account in order to preserve the forest. And so as we have time constraints, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CAMARA. Mali. Thank you very much. Regarding all that preceded, you will understand with me that with the climate change, allow me the expression, this is a complication. I'm talking about this as Mali is in this same framework when it comes to the climate change. So talking about the green employment. So we have already talked about a few cases. So and participants have, I can see participants have retired. So when we talk about the promotion of the green environment, Mali is in this framework fighting development, when we take this agro business, then this is something taken into account. The situation we have today is taken into account the various cases in favor of development. So, and this is only in line with the various activities we are carrying out today throughout the region. So now, so we have to get a linkage and the implementation of the various activities we have to take into account to inspire from the experience of countries in terms of the implementation of the programs for development and promotion of green employment, organize the seminars, symposiums, organize trips for studies and also challenges. Thank you. Now, I think a few questions that are in from the framework of a partnership, and 3 questions. Then tomorrow we can also have some. Your attention, please. There's a piece of information. All the presentations will be given you, and it will also be on the platform. That is why we have circulated a list of attendants. So, and those who don't have their names there are compelled, are obliged, are urged to have their names. 2 or 3 questions on partnership. I'm from Chad. Congratulations to the panelists for raising these alignment. I would like to ask these questions to AGETIPE. This AGETIPE, indeed, these we are considered to be the first employers. We are considered to be the first employers. So normally we should be working with the AGETIPE. Why? Because we have we receive funding. This requires partners. So and this is to be taken into account when we talk about the situation today, and we try to make these linkages when we talk about the current situation. So directly you work with some other partners, and some people disappear. So I think it is very important to take into account that this partnership. I would like we take into account this partnership to allow us to mitigate this unemployment rate. And when it comes to AGETIPE is today an agency that is receiving funding when it comes to a project. I take example of HIMO. When we take the manpower, so how to change this employment rate? How you can't, why you can't have this as a sub-component when we talk about this unemployment case. Thank you. This was my question. Thank you, madam. Is there any other person? Thank you, the moderator. My question is addressing Madame BANGOURA. For instance, her structure, she has a structure, national agency. I don't know, it is the same model with us. The fund we receive a subvention. So I don't know if it is exactly the same thing. This is the question and the funding mode. Thank you. We accompany movement, the grouping. Do you accompany agricultural grouping? What is the model when it comes to funding? We have two interveners. Not using the microphone. I would like to reply to the question raised by Madame. When it comes to service regarding the employment, and this takes into account this aspect. And when you take, for instance, the institutional development between the two agencies, between ANAFIC and Agile, there are new actors at the national level. So at the level of collectivity. So when it comes to at AGETIPE, generally actors of employment do not know more about the situation. So they know, but there's a lack of information that is existing. So this is at the level of ANAFIC. So we also talked about this aspect to take into account the collaboration aspect to see what we can do when it comes to this these two structures. So when it comes to mechanisms of funding, today AGETIPE, we receive the FICOM and other structures that are members of the institutions that are members of it. We have received, let's say, other structure from Niger, from other countries. These are subsidies that exist at the level of collectivity. And so this is also in line with those who are impacted when it comes to the project. And the GIE take also into account in terms of funding. So FNDN, this is a subsidy. We have reimbursement that is also expected. There are measures that we often take. There are also some other cases that are taken into account. Thank you. Thank you. Regarding the partnership between AGETIPE and ANAFIC, I was saying that AGETIPE is the owner of, let's say, the project owner. This is with any type or any kind of private or public project. So mechanisms to mitigate the unemployment rate. Indeed, this year, for instance, our performance contract that was allocated to AGETIPE to create 5,000 employment, and this was also done, and the result is very probant. So through this, we are in partnership with some agencies of the country, and so we also have a new partnership as through this that we try to create employment mechanisms regarding the accompaniment for agricultural grouping. So AGETIPE is not decentralized. We do not have a representative in the countryside, but we pass through prefectural DGs. Then after the training, there's a selection. Then right now we have 26 tractors in the countryside that are motoculture in the countryside. These are the mechanisms we pass through DPGs for the accompaniment of the agricultural accompaniment. Thank you very much to panelists for your presentations and the response to questions. I think that the workshop is continuing tomorrow. So for any questions, you can come close to the panelists for any enlightenment. I'll give the floor to Mr. Sidiki. Thank you, Mr. the Moderator. I would like to share two pieces of information with you. The first is, unfortunately, the dinner that was planned for tonight won't take place. As you know, the incidents that occurred at the depot level, there are some restrictions. So we wanted to have our meeting, but unfortunately the dinner won't take place. I think that tomorrow we'll be here for the excursions. Knowing that the entrance is a difficult, panelists that are here present did everything possible to be here. So it is very complicated, but for sure we did everything to have this conference. Our apologies. I think that, as he said, works will continue tomorrow morning. We'll be here. We'll be here also tomorrow morning to continue the working session. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. the General Deputy, the Deputy General Director, and this is the last panel for today. Yesterday, the difficulties made that we omitted the secretariat. Today there's a secretariat. Today we are not get content with it. We were all affected yesterday, despite the insistence of the government. So I think with the government we need to express our solidarity. It is the ministry that insisted so that this conference be done. The support for the Guinean government. The other assurance we were given, the president in the closing, so, and they have decided to take into account everything the minister said yesterday. So this is something we need to applaud for. Now, for the continuation of our work, tomorrow we have 2 workshops. We are going to go through a plenary. Every one of you has a concerns that we are taken into account or not taken into account by the various communications. We have panelists that are not around. If you have ideas for the projection, SP in the development of for the green development, please note it down. You will have the floor tomorrow to allow the Executive Secretariat to complete our vision, the global outcomes expected from this workshop in order to have recommendations susceptible to have at the end of this workshop to transform into concrete project promotion of the development of the green employment. Tomorrow morning we are starting at 10 to stop at 1 after the lunch. We will come back for the closing ceremony if this pleases you. That's why we have readjusted the program. Thank you very much. Is it okay? So this program is adopted. Today's works, we are done for today. Thank you.